Hey guys, I want to talk to you today about knowledge and the role of knowledge in the Christian life, right? And I want to go first to one of the most absurd verses in Scripture, okay? This verse perplexed me for a very long time. I'm talking 10, 20 years. I read this verse, I was like, that didn't make any sense. And this is it. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 2. Paul writes, "If anyone thinks that he knows anything, he has not yet known as he ought to know." Okay. If anyone thinks he knows anything, do you think you know anything? Are you stupid? Paul's like, unless you're stupid, you can't know as you ought to know. That's pretty cool, huh? Just be stupid for Jesus. You know? Jesus said something similar in Matthew 11:25. He said, "I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and have revealed them to infants." Jesus seems to indicate that if you're really smart and intelligent, you can't get the things of God or know the things of God. Back to Corinthians chapter 8, verse 3, Paul continues the thought, "But if anyone loves God, he is known by him." So Paul says, if you think you know something, you don't. But if you love God, you're known by him. What are we supposed to be about as Christians? What are we supposed to be learning? Are we just learning knowledge from a book? Are we coming to know a person? The person of truth, right? Like, of course, Scripture is good. The Bible is good. It is a means to an end. What is the end? Knowing God, loving God. Jumping back one verse to 1 Corinthians 8, verse 1, Paul says, "Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up." Right? Guys, is the church today puffed up in knowledge? Well, what would be the evidence? Paul says that love builds up, knowledge puffs up. If we're puffed up with knowledge, guess what? We're not going to build up in love. We're going to tear people down. If we're puffed up with knowledge, we're more likely to tear people down because we're right and we know and you don't know and you're stupid. And guess what? You're supposed to be stupid for Jesus. I should put that on a t-shirt. Be stupid for Jesus. 1 Corinthians. Love, guys. Love. Being in a loving relationship with God, who what? Loved you, sent his son for you while you were yet sinners. You didn't do anything to earn it. You didn't know anything. You didn't do something right, get something right, know something right. God loved you. He drew you to himself through his Spirit. And then so you continue the process through the Spirit of being drawn to God. And of course, along the way, we learn truths about who God is so we can know God better. That's the point. The point of knowledge in the Christian life is to know more about God so we can know God more. To know more about God so we can know God more. Sometimes we get the first part right. We're knowing more about God, but we're not coming to know God more. And so what are we doing with all that knowledge? We're getting puffed up because we're not applying it to the proper end, right? I know so much. I've read so much Bible. I know Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Latin, and I'm so smart. And what does Scripture say? What does Jesus say in Matthew 11:25? He seems to indicate the smarter you are, the less likely you are to know God, especially if you don't apply it to that end, okay? And I think it's good to be intelligent. I have some friends that are scholars, biblical scholars, language scholars, theologians. Man, I treasure their knowledge. I go to them and ask questions and I sit at their feet and I value those people, and they've spent their lives learning truths and understanding the cultural context of Scripture and the original languages of Scripture and the original context of Scripture. And that's so important, guys, and it can shed light onto the journey of coming to know God more. But if we're not using all of that knowledge to know God more, guess what? We're going to get puffed up. We're going to be tearing people down. Look what Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 20, 26, and 27, right? He continues with this idea. This is what he says. "Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world?" That's verse 20. Now jumping to 26 and 27. "Brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. Bam, bing, bada, boom, baby. Right? He's like, you guys weren't smart or rich or wealthy or affluent. Guys, I can tell you the churches that are growing the most are the affluent churches in the affluent neighborhoods with the money and the big buildings and the cool catchy phrases on the sign and the nice curb appeal. But Paul says, like, hey, you guys, you weren't the smart ones, you weren't the wealthy ones, you weren't the powerful, right? Why? Because God chooses the foolish things and the weak things to shame the wise. Why? Because as Jesus said, God reveals things to little kids. When Jesus said you must become like a little child. Why? Because sometimes you can be too smart for God's wisdom. You can be too smart in your own mind. You can think you know too much and you're so smart. And some of the most intellectual people have the greatest struggles trusting God, having faith in God, believing in God. Why? Because they're too smart. Be stupid for Jesus. That's my new slogan, baby. Be stupid for Jesus. Be stupid wise, not stupid smart. Be stupid wise, not stupid smart. Because when you're so smart that you can't believe in God, you're stupid. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. The smartest people have trouble believing in God. They're stupid smart. Instead, be stupid wise, which means you know you don't know anything, because that's what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 8:2. If you think you know something, you don't. But if you're known by God and loved by God, then you really know what you should know, which is a person. And all the knowledge that you may pursue, the scripture reading, the Bible, the languages, the cultural context, the exegesis, the eisegesis, all that will come under God's authority and God's presence. Because that's the point, guys. The Bible is meant to lead us to God. It's not to become God for us. It's not to become an idol that keeps us from God, because your knowledge can become an idol, and that's how you get puffed up in knowledge. And you know so much and you're so smart, and people need to listen to you because you have so much knowledge, right? I can tell you guys, I don't have a lot of knowledge. I'm not a wise person. I'm not intelligent. I've not gone to school and learned all these things. I've pursued God. That's been my main pursuit. Now, God led me to go back to school to get my bachelor's in humanities. He led me to go back to school and get my master's in humanities, because that's the study of human culture that has really helped me understand what I need to know to do what God has called me to do. What has God called me to do? He's called me to understand the church in its broadest context. Hey guys, I was interrupted there for a minute, so I just wanted to close things up. We know I was saying, don't be stupid smart, be stupid wise. I gotta do my Brooklyn accent. Don't be stupid smart, be stupid wise, eh? Capiche? And that's how we're gonna end it. Love you guys. Seriously though, don't make your Christianity about knowledge, because knowledge puffs up. Make it about love. Love builds up. What does it build you up into? Into God, into knowing God and being in love with Jesus. And that's the point, guys. If you're tearing people down, in your pursuit of God, you're not pursuing God. You're pursuing the God of self. A freaking man. Love you guys. See ya. Bye.